Mattsdorf.
Here.
Gilson.
Here.
Hildebrand.
Here.
Penquitz.
Here.
Binder. Nelson.
Here.
Let the record show we have a quorum. Next is a pledge. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Nelson.
Yes.
Hildebrand.
Yes.
Mattsdorf.
Yes.
Penquitz.
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Binder.
Yes.
Gilson.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the audience portion where we ask people to sign in and be recognized. That's where you do the talking and we do the listening. This evening, no one has signed in. We certainly appreciate and encourage people to come before the council. Item 5 is not needed. No items were removed from the consent agenda. I declare a public hearing open for discussion and action regarding ordinance number 6 and ordinance amending section 13-1-103 and 13-1-106 zoning code of the municipal code of the city of Plymouth, Wisconsin regarding wall signs and ground signs. Tonight, our Assistant City Administrator, Jack Johnson, is here. Jack, tell us what's going on
Sure,
here.
so this comes back to the council after the committee of the whole on the late January regarding commercial wall sign placement in terms of height. Our code restricts height placement in 6 zoning districts to 20 and 30 feet depending on the zoning district. After feedback from the committee of the whole in January, we have proposed an ordinance that was reviewed at the Plan Commission meeting to remove that restriction. We did some analysis of similar communities in the area, and similar communities in our size do not restrict that. This would not impact the size restriction of signage in these districts, which are regulated in the same section of code, just in terms of where they are placed on the wall facade. In addition, we have some right sizing of the ordinance that would allow ground signage in multifamily residential districts of 12 units or greater. This has historically been allowed in Plymouth, Hunter Bridge, Songbird Pond, Pleasant View Townhomes. It was just more right sizing the ordinance to right size what has already been historically allowed. Again, this was reviewed at the Plan Commission meeting in March. Zoning code ordinance changes require Class 2 notice. That's why it's coming to you guys a bit later. City attorney has drafted the final ordinance that's included in your packet after feedback at the Plan Commission meeting. And it's up for consideration tonight. So,
Thank you very much. It being a public hearing, the chair will recognize anyone who wants to speak regarding ordinance number 6, amending section 13-1-103 and 13-1-106. Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. The chair will entertain a motion on ordinance number 6 as presented.
Motion to approve ordinance number 6, as stated.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second to approve ordinance number 6. Any discussion? John?
I just wonder whether the plan commission then could restrict a sign if it was really outrageously tall or whatever, like, you know, does this remove that
Yeah.
ability?
The ordinance does restrict sign height placement if it's above the roof pitch. So that was considered and outlined in the ordinance, just to verify that. But the way the ordinance is written, it would allow them to go, you know, basically up to where the roof pitch begins. So it's kind of restricted based on how tall the building is. Our code does restrict how tall buildings can get in respective zoning districts. So there's that protection in place. But otherwise, that's the thought process from staff.
Thanks.
Sure.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Clerk will call the roll on ordinance number 6, amending.
Herman,
Yes.
Matsdorf,
Yes.
Binder,
Yes.
Penquitz,
Yes.
Gilson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Hildebrand.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Moving on to resolution number 5, commendation for Alderman John Nelson. I will take the time to read this, so bear with me, council and members of the council and John. This resolution number 5 of 2025, resolutions are entered as a permanent record of the city, a resolution of commendation for John Nelson. Whereas John Nelson served faithfully as Alderman in District 2 upon his election on April of 2014 through April of 2025. And whereas John's contribution to municipal government is an indication of his pride in our community, particularly noted in his public service as council president and serving on finance and personnel, community television, plan commission, redevelopment authority, ad hoc affordable housing committee, board of review. And whereas John's commitment and dedication to the city are evident through his establishment of the new Plymouth Sugar Shack, establishment of the Plymouth Maple Festival, and volunteering locally as a member of the Plymouth Lions Club. Whereas it is fitting and right that the city recognize John Nelson for his outstanding service to the community. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Donald O. Pullman, Mayor of the City of Plymouth, on behalf of the Common Council and all Plymouth residents, extend to John Nelson their deepest appreciation and gratitude for his dedication and service to the City of Plymouth, and that a copy of this resolution be presented to him. Chair will entertain a motion on resolution number 5.
Also move. Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion?
I'd like to say something. I think you forgot
Alderman.
John's privy in there as well.
John's John downtown.
We weren't going to mention that,
That's okay.
but that was a very important addition to downtown.
It was.
That's true, yeah. Any other comment?
Thank you, John.
Oh, you're welcome. You know, it really has been a pleasure to work with all of you, and we're trying to make the city of Plymouth a better place to live. You know, it's all about quality of life and trying to make things better. And I guess my request to all of you is to keep focused on expanding, progressing, not just being satisfied with the way the city is right now. We can always make it better. We certainly don't want to make it worse, so I think, you know, it's upon us to come up with ideas on how to improve the city, and I'll be out there
Watching.
watching, yeah. So, thank you all,
Thank you very much.
and to the mayor.
Clerk will call the roll. Let's do an A or an A on this. All in
Hildebrand,
favor?
Yes.
All opposed? Congratulations, John. Well deserved. Moving on to item 8, proclamations. Item A, recognition of Arbor Day in the city of Plymouth, April 25, 2025. I will read this proclamation. This is my 20th one, and I think we're into the 30s, if I'm not mistaken, for the city. So, whereas in 1872, John Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Education that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of precious topsoil by winds and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now therefore, I, Donald Pullman, Mayor of the City of Plymouth, do hereby declare April 25, 25 as Arbor Day in the City of Plymouth, and I urge all citizens to support efforts to care for our trees and woodlands and to support our city's community forest program. I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden their hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations. Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the proclamation on recognizing Arbor Day.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. And moving on to item B, recognition of National Library Week, April 6th through the 12th, 2025. Whereas libraries offer the opportunity for everyone to connect with others, learn new skills, and pursue their passions, no matter where they are in life's journey. And whereas libraries have long served as trusted institutions, striving to ensure equitable access to information and services for all members of the community, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic status. And whereas libraries adapt to the ever-changing needs of their communities, developing and expanding collections, programs, and services that are as diverse as the populations they serve. And whereas libraries are accessible and inclusive places that promote a sense of local connection, advancing understanding, civic engagement, and shared community goals. And whereas libraries play a pivotal role in economic development by providing resources and support for job seekers, entrepreneurs, and small businesses, thus contributing to local prosperity and growth. And whereas libraries make choices that are good for the environment and make sense economically, creating thriving communities for a better tomorrow. And whereas libraries are treasured institutions that preserve our collective heritage and knowledge, safeguarding both physical and digital resources for present and future generations. And whereas libraries are an essential public good and fundamental institutions in democratic societies, working to improve society, protect the right to educate and literacy, and promote the free exchange of information and ideas for all. And whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers are joining library supporters and advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week. Now therefore, I, Donald Pullman, Mayor of the City of Plymouth, proclaim National Library Week, April 6th to the 12th, 2025. During this week, I encourage all residents to visit their library and celebrate the adventures and opportunities they unlock for us every day. Read, set, library. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Motion carried. These are annual events in the city, and we're very proud and very happy to participate in such proclamations. Moving on to item 9, new business, discussion and possible action on annual street programs, bids, Collins Street, Eastern Avenue to Stafford Street, including Hill Court. Tonight we have our Director of Public Works, Kathy Austin, to give us a summary. Kathy.
Thank you. So during the 2025 budget, Collins Street was the identified street for both the utility and the roadway project for the year 2025. Last Wednesday, on April 2nd, we opened bids. We did receive 7 bids for the project, with the lowest coming in at just over 1.3 million, and that was David Tenner. So I'm going to kind of go over this one and the next item as well. So the next item you have on your agenda also is Kapoor's construction inspection and staking for that project. And that came in at $98,970. So the capital fund did allocate $500,000 on the city side and $500,000 on the utility side. Both of those amounts were planned to be part of our 2025 debt issuance for this coming year. With those two totals, the David Tenner's and the Kapoor, the overall project is roughly 1.4 million. So it is 400,000 above our budgeted amount. So Tim will go into how we plan to cover both the city share overrun and the utility overrun, because they will be different. So in your memo, there is a breakdown of allocations on the city side and the utility side. So the city share is a total of $678,867. So it is about just shy of 180,000 shy. And the utility side, we're about 273,000 short. So again, Tim will go over how we plan to accommodate, but I guess just two kind of main factors of those cost overruns. One is just the economy and the inflation, right? But then the second one, we did add Hill Court as part of this project during the design phase when we went to televise the sanitary sewer. The portion on Hill Court, so Hill Court is a short dead end, almost alley-like roadway right off of Collins, and the sanitary sewer is in need of replacement. So that pavement width is only about 16 feet wide. So with digging up for the sanitary sewer, it does only make sense to do the water main and replace those lead laterals at this time as well with the project. So of the total overrun, that makes up about $150,000 of that above budgeted cost. So I'll turn over to Tim to talk about how we'll do those two funding options.
Sure, so as Kathy mentioned, on the city's portion, that overrun is $178,867. We do recommend that be covered by capital fund balance. So as mentioned in previous meetings, we do have a county trail project that we no longer have to fund this year. So we've kind of been using that as a way to help cover some unforeseen expenses. There is $287,000 basically remaining from that trail front project that we have not already sort of drawn from. So that's how we're looking to cover the city's portion of that project. I will also mention that just we're beginning our 2024 audit process, looking back at our final numbers from 2024. Our budget to actual for expenses was at 98.6%, so about $100,000 less. So kudos to all departments staying right on budget for expenses. And then our investment income on the revenue side actually came in pretty substantially higher than anticipated. So we have a little extra funding as well there. So on the city side, I think we are covered, no concerns. We already have that extra capital fund balance as well. On the utility side, staff does recommend adding utility overrun, which, totaled about $273,612, and adding that into our debt issuance. Staff had a conversation with Ellers, our financial advisors, on their recommendation moving forward with that. Their recommendation using debt issuance is really for 4 primary reasons. One, it does preserve that unrestricted cash balance for emergencies, such as water main breaks or other things. that allows the utility to include the cost of this project in a future full rate case review. We haven't done a full rate case on the water side in a number of years. We've done a lot. We've done most recently a simplified rate case, which is quick, but eventually we will need to go in for a full future rate case. It will allow us to include that as part of that. The relatively small debt increase would have a minor impact on ratepayers, but it does allow for increased levy flexibility based on state levy limit regulations that will allow us to use some of that funds for non-utility capital purchases in the future. And I think probably most important for Ellers and talking through this was that a drawdown of unrestricted utility balance could negatively impact our bond rating as we're going into a period of 3 years of probably debt issuances moving forward. So staff does recommend adding the overage on the utility side to our debt issuance. Just as a heads up, we are planning to bring that debt issuance forward in June. So council will have a full rundown prior to that. Ellers is going to come in and give a debt presentation in May, about a month in advance, prepare council for the upcoming debt issuances and kind of plan moving forward. So with that recommendation, staff does recommend the 2025 street project be awarded to David Tenner in a bid amount of $1,353,509, and the professional service agreement with Kapoor & Associates totaling $98,970. I think Kathy and I are both happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion so we can discuss.
I'll move to recommend the 2025 street project as stated.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. As chair, I will allow the first to make any initial comments and then the second to follow up on that if they so choose.
Two questions, quick questions. David Tenner, is that somebody we've used before?
We have not, Kapoor has, they're a pretty large company up in, I don't know, De Pere maybe, Kapoor's.
Okay.
But yes, they're more than capable of doing this work.
Was there any consideration this far into the project to simply call it off for a year and rebid it? Is there any value to that?
I don't see costs going down. I think the only way to get this project in is to reduce the scope of the work. So I don't see that just rebidding it next year would get us any better pricing. It would allow us time to budget, but that's about it.
Still gonna get budgeted one way or the other. Yeah, we still gotta borrow for it. Greg?
Yeah, is taking from any of the other programs gonna affect the fire truck buying?
No, it should not. That is still going to be built into our debt issuance, and that's going to be in 2027.
Any other questions? Clerk will call the roll, please, on the bid contract, annual street program bids in the amount of $1,353,509 and professional agreement for $98,970.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Penquitz,
Yes.
Mattsdorf,
Yes.
Gilson,
Yes.
Binder,
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Moving on to item B, this is Kathy's again, discussion and possible action on agreement with Kapoor Engineering for construction management for the 2025 street project.
I covered it pretty well with the memo above, but that cost is part of the cost overrun, so that was figured into the overall cost that Tim spoke of.
Chair will entertain a motion so we can discuss.
I'll move that we go into the agreement with Kapoor Engineering for construction management of the 2025 street project.
Second.
We have a first and a second, any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Gilson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Mattsdorf,
Yes.
Binder,
Yes.
Penquitz.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate that. Moving on to item C, discussion possible action on rapid flashing beacon bids Eastern Avenue at North Bruns. Director Austin, you want to tell us on that?
Sure. So initially, this project came forward in 2024, when we purchased these rapid flashing pedestrian beacons at the same time as the ones that we installed on Eastern and South Street. So that project on Eastern and South Street did get installed in 2024, and at that time, council did a lot additional funds for the Eastern and North Bruns, the one we're talking about tonight. But when we went to do the installation, it became apparent that there was water ponding already in the pedestrian crosswalk. They did not meet ADA accessibility, and more work was gonna be needed and more dollars were gonna have to be allocated. So part of the 2025 budget, we allocated an additional $50,000 for this work. Because of the price, we had to go out for public bid, that's state statute. So we had to go out for public bid. We opened bids last Wednesday as well. We received 6 bids. They kind of were all over the place. The lowest bid came in from ZR Concrete at $64,980. So again, this project came in over budget by $14,980. There are funds in the capital reserve for this work. Again, when you start doing smaller projects, sometimes you do get costs that higher than what you would on a big, like Collins Street project. But this will make that crosswalk, both on the south side and the north side, ADA accessible. So it's replacing curb and gutter, handicap ramps, making sure we don't have water ponding. There are storm sewer modifications that need to be done. So with that, it is gonna be higher than original budgeted, but we do have funds in the capital reserve to cover this. There is potential we can maybe change the scope a little bit with not, you might be able to do the pavement markings in-house and save some funds, so we're gonna work with the contractor and see if there's anything independently that you would be able to potentially do. But at this time, I'm asking for that full overage, just in the case we can't work with them.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion so we can discuss.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the contract with ZR LLC Concrete in the amount of $64,980 for the beacon lights on Eastern and North Bruns. Any discussion?
Mayor, I think I would just sort of echo my comments from the prior item with the 2024 audit kind of beginning to wrap up, and we've got some additional area where we're under budget in 2024 and a little over budget in revenues in 2024. We do have a financial policy which will dictate that a portion of those funds will be then contributed back to our capital fund balance. So we've got a little wiggle room there that'll be additional, and again, once we have the audit fully wrapped up, we'll be able to provide you with that exact number, but we're certainly comfortable at this point that we can support this overage.
Thank you. Any other comments? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Penquitz,
Yes.
Binder,
Yes.
Matsdorf,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Gilson,
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Director Austin. Moving on to item D, discussion and possible action on utility easement with LAC Block. Tim, you want to give us a summary on that?
Yeah, so this is a utility easement with the Lag Family LLC. So the Lag Family LLC is the lock block project down on the corner of Stafford and Mill. So Lag Family LLC does have a building permit to begin construction on the project. As part of those upgrades, a new private sanitary sewer line needs to be installed to the building. This is going to require work that happens through the city parking lot, so we are providing an easement for the work that needs to be done. Attorney Fieber did draft the easement, or excuse me, the Lag Family did draft the easement. It was reviewed by Attorney Fieber. We made some minor modifications and they were comfortable with those changes. So staff does recommend approval. The easement does require that if the parking lot needs to be dug up for whatever reason, it has to be restored to its current condition for maintenance purposes. But happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion so we can discuss.
I move that we approve the utility easement with the lock block.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Gilson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Herman, Matsdorf,
Yes.
Binder,
Yes.
Penquitz.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Moving on to item E, discussion and possible action on encroachment agreement with Lac Block. Tim, you want to give us a summary on that, please?
Yeah, so this is an encroachment easement agreement with the Lag Family LLC. So very similarly, they're working on the project. Part of the project is uncovering the window wells, which had previously been on Stafford Street to allow natural light into the basement of that area. That's about a 4 feet strip that goes along the building. They're also going to install some storm sewer, so for water that gets in the window wells, it goes down a new storm sewer area. So this gives them permission to complete that work and work on the public right-of-way, which this area currently is. Again, this was drafted by the Lag Family LLC. It was reviewed by Attorney Fieber and Director Austin of Public Works. So happy to answer any questions, but staff does recommend approval.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion so we can discuss.
I move to approve the encroachment easement agreement with Lag Family LLC.
Second.
We have a first and a second to approve the easement as indicated. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Penquitz,
Yes.
Binder,
Yes.
Matsdorf,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Gilson.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. For those in the audience, we will be going into closed session and emptying the room. When we come out of closed session, we will be adjourning. There will be no vote.